What if the person you humiliated held the power to completely upend your life? This is the story of Henry Carter, a proud but narrow-minded diner owner, and Jacob Wright, a black veteran whose quiet dignity would spark a chain reaction no one saw coming. And at the heart of it all, Angela Wright, a woman on a mission to bring justice where it was long overdue. It all began on a crisp Tuesday morning in the sleepy town of Pinewood, Georgia. Carter's Diner, a local institution, was buzzing with its usual breakfast crowd. Henry Carter stood behind the counter, surveying his domain with pride. For him, the diner was more than a business. It was a legacy. Passed down from his father, the place represented traditional values, as Henry liked to call them. But for many, those values felt outdated and exclusionary. The door jingled as a new customer walked in. Jacob Wright stepped inside, his military boots clicking softly against the tiled floor. His neatly pressed uniform and upright posture immediately caught the attention of everyone in the room. He wasn't there to make a statement. He simply wanted a cup of coffee and a moment to sit in peace. Yet his presence seemed to disrupt the atmosphere. Henry's eyes narrowed as he watched Jacob approach the counter. The veteran's polite smile and confident demeanor didn't sit well with him. "Morning," Jacob said, his voice calm. "I'd like a coffee, please." Henry leaned on the counter, his gaze hardening. "We don't serve your kind here," he said flatly. Jacob blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Excuse me?" he asked, his tone steady but questioning. "I said," Henry repeated louder this time, "we don't serve your kind here. You can take your uniform and your business somewhere else." The room fell silent. Customers who had been laughing moments ago now exchanged uneasy glances. Some looked down at their plates, unwilling to meet Jacob's eyes. Others watched, their expressions a mix of shock and silent agreement. Jacob's jaw tightened, but he remained composed. "Sir," he said, his voice firm yet measured, "I've served this country. I've fought for the freedoms we all enjoy. I'm not asking for special treatment. Just a cup of coffee." Henry snorted, shaking his head. "You think that uniform earns you something here? Not in my diner. Now I suggest you leave before I call the sheriff." For a moment, Jacob considered arguing. He wanted to challenge the man's ignorance, to make him see the wrong in his actions. But years of military discipline had taught him that sometimes dignity lies in walking away. Without another word, Jacob turned and left the diner, the bell above the door jingling faintly as it closed behind him. What Henry didn't realize was that Jacob's story wasn't over, not by a long shot, and he had no idea who Jacob's sister was. That evening, Jacob recounted the incident to Angela Wright, his older sister. Angela was more than just his sibling. She was a highly respected civil rights lawyer with a reputation for dismantling discriminatory practices wherever she found them. As Jacob spoke, Angela's expression shifted from disbelief to anger. "He said that to you? In uniform?" she asked, her voice tight with controlled fury. Jacob nodded. "It's not the first time, Angie. People like him don't see the uniform. They just see the color of my skin." Angela leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "We're not letting this slide, Jacob. He needs to be held accountable, not just for you, but for everyone he's treated like this." Jacob hesitated. "It's not worth it," he said quietly. "It won't change him." Angela shook her head. "It's not about changing him. It's about showing the community that this behavior has consequences." The next morning, Angela began assembling her plan. She reached out to local activists, journalists, and community leaders, rallying them to Jacob's cause. By the end of the day, she had organized a peaceful protest and contacted several reporters eager to cover the story. Meanwhile, Henry Carter was blissfully unaware of the storm heading his way. At the diner, he bragged to his staff about keeping things in order and maintaining tradition. But as the lunch rush approached, he noticed an unusual commotion outside. A crowd had gathered on the sidewalk, holding signs that read, "Justice for all," and "No room for hate." Among them were reporters with cameras, capturing every angle of the scene. At the front of the group stood Angela and Jacob, their presence commanding attention. Henry stepped outside, his face flushed with anger. "What's all this?" he barked. "You people need to leave. This is private property." Angela stepped forward, her voice calm but resolute. "This is about accountability, Mr. Carter. My brother was humiliated in your diner simply because of the color of his skin. We're here to make sure that never happens again." Henry sneered. "Your brother? He's just trying to stir up trouble. You think some signs and cameras will change anything?" Angela didn't flinch. "It's not just about signs and cameras. We've filed a lawsuit against your diner for discriminatory practices, and we're prepared to take this all the way to court." Henry's bravado faltered as he realized the seriousness of the situation. "You can't do that," he stammered. "I haven't done anything wrong." Angela raised an eyebrow. "We'll let the courts decide that." Over the next few weeks, Carter's Diner became the center of a growing movement. The boycott Angela had organized gained traction, with locals choosing to support businesses that embraced inclusivity. The diner's once bustling dining room grew eerily quiet, and Henry's profits began to dwindle. Desperate, Henry attempted to apologize publicly, but his half-hearted statements only fueled the community's frustration. "I didn't mean any harm," he claimed during a local news interview, but the damage was done. Eventually, Henry was forced to sell the diner. Its new owners, a group of young entrepreneurs, transformed it into a welcoming space for everyone, renaming it Unity Cafe. Under their leadership, the cafe became a symbol of progress and inclusivity, drawing customers from all over the region. As for Jacob and Angela, they continued their fight for justice. Jacob became a motivational speaker, sharing his story at schools and community events. Angela's reputation as a lawyer grew, and she used her platform to advocate for systemic change. In the end, what began as an act of humiliation turned into a powerful lesson for an entire town. Henry Carter learned that prejudice has no place in today's world, and Jacob Wright proved that dignity and resilience can overcome even the deepest forms of hatred. Thank you for watching this powerful story of courage and justice. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to Story Dash for more inspiring stories. Turn on notifications to stay updated, and we'll see you in the next video.